What are the most innovative ways that we can redesign a packaging?
Another sort of project was rebranding Maharashtra tourism. So as a class, we sort of traveled Maharashtra for 1 month. We looked at the branding, we looked at advertisements for it, like ad campaigns for the university, giving us that kind of platform to really, push our boundaries and our thinking to another level.
For most of the colleges, you have a certain period in which you can only do internship or life projects. For us, they, change our class timings accordingly, and we can go ahead and do our internship.
Whether it's a rural immersion that happens at the end of the first semester, whether it's a community project that we insist that they do at the end of their third semester, whether it's a internship with an NGO that is compulsory at the end of their second year, we build a series of experiences where they get exposed and sensitized to different situations.
We also have a whole host of different electives that allow the student to grow beyond just their specialization.
In my second semester, I did an elective on the stock market. Who thought a design student would be studying the stock market? Now, I'm India's youngest financial writer published in the Hindustan Times Live Mint.
This gives them a platform to understand, okay, hey, I'm doing business, but can I make a future in digital marketing? Maybe can I make a future in fintech? How about learning how to code?
There are barely any universities that give you that kind of exposure, that kind of options of international exposures.
When an international faculty comes and interacts with the student on specific modules, that adds a new layer of knowledge, skill and attitude.
And when I saw their presentations and research, super advanced research skills I would expect at a master's level from undergraduate level.
Here, finally, they're doing what they want to do. They are not actually preparing for exams. They are examining themselves.
So you constantly push to your limits, constantly spread too thin, but eventually you grow, right? And that's what this whole place is about. It's about being conducive for growth.
I think passion for making sure that every child is a success story. I think each of us in the team has that passion.
So it's really a common dream, a common vision that sets everyone on fire over here.
It's a place for natural blossoming. The way Atlas teaches is not just by textbook, but it teaches us to teach ourselves. They literally help you with every single step. Like, even if you annoy them to repeat it probably 100 times, they will go ahead and do it.
When you're lost and you're feeling very disoriented, you don't have your family here. So at that point, the faculty plays a very, very important role, because at that moment you need someone you trust enough to hold your hand.
They push you in the deep and they let you swim up, drown a bit, but then they also your lifeguard to get you back and help you.
Faculties are key to the academic journey of students. So it's a conscious call of the kind of faculty we build in. You have experienced, seasoned, senior faculty members who worked many years in the industry and then decided to come to academia. You have younger faculties also.
And it's not just young in terms of age, it's in the way they sort of think. And what that does is, it makes the faculty of Atlas very accessible to the students, also very relatable to the students.
I sing, I dance, I do voices, I speak other languages to them, and they love it.
I have been a learner in this space. It is something that you walk into a classroom and you have an equal engagement. You have kind of equal potentials coming together on the table. You have equal contributions.
Also, all of them are like walking encyclopedias.
So they would suggest you like case studies and research papers.
Faculty specialize and do research in the areas in which they teach. They're very knowledgeable in their subjects, and they can maintain high standards of academic rigor.
They also bring in a lot of different learning styles and pedagogy, and then you have your industry experts.
Having an urban campus in Mumbai, and especially located very close to BKC, where you have largest corporates available for you to work, we have people from IBM, TCS, these organizations coming and teaching with us.
For PR, my faculty at Ad Factors, he's the group head. Another professor who's a consultant for McKinsey, L'Oreal.
There's foodpreneurship. So how to start a food business. This is being done by a professor who himself has a food startup.
For example, I have actually spent about 13 years in the industry, and then I've stepped into academia, and I could build the curriculum based on my industry experience.
We have a very, very strong international connect. We are going to have what we call as the International Faculty Week, where more than 20 international faculty coming in from leading universities, and they're going to be conducting structured modules for our students.
So it's all about creating meaning. And one thing that we were working this week actually was how are you embedding your values in what you're doing?
I think for the students it's great to see both some different content but also a different style of delivery and a different emphasis on what's important. And that just adds another arrow to their quiver.
So really you're not settling for the second best, you're settling for the best. And you're doing this right here in India.
Over here at Atlas SME, rather than just learning what's in the books, we learn about how it really works in the real world.
We don't just talk experiential learning.
At Atlas, we want a global mindset with local values. It's very important to harness the power of our culture, take it and bring it to the world.
Students here are given the opportunity to engage with people from around the world. We have a lot of exchange students that come by, we have a lot of visitors that come in.
We've got great curricular partnerships with Parsons, with Vancouver Film School. We have just been inducted into the Babson Entrepreneurship Collaborative, which allows our students to build their startups of the future.
There are barely any universities that give you that kind of exposure. High Flyers is the international club which basically handles all the delegations. So we're part of all the conferences that happen with different universities like Nottingham Trent, University of Bath, Southampton, lots of universities from New York. We have Japanese delegations.
We had the Baroness of Oxford here just 2 weeks back. We had the Mayor of West Yorkshire. We had an Australian delegation.
We are going to have the International Faculty Week, where more than 20 international faculty coming in from leading universities of UK, and they're going to be conducting structured modules for our students.
For the students, it's great to see both some different content but also a different style of delivery and a different emphasis on what's important. And that just adds another arrow to their quiver.
Global platform is what we're offering them, and students get to transfer if they'd like to at a certain point.
With transfer programs, you complete your first year here and then you go abroad to a university for the rest 3 years and complete your degree. And then there's a project-based transfer for like 2-3 weeks. And then there's like an exchange program, which is for 2 months.
So we have a lot of immersions for them to go to other international universities. We have collaborations where we do semester exchange.
I got selected for a semester exchange at HKU. It was a life-changing experience. I got to, learn from them. I got to also make friends for almost a lifetime, I think.
We do have global immersions, wherein our students travel abroad to understand the culture, the business. This year we had students go to UK.
It helps us to enroll into many summer schools which run abroad, like London School of Economics, London Business School, and many more.
We also have tie-ups with Stanford D School and Alto University, where students across the global geographies come together to work on a project.
We do projects where our students are sent for 3 weeks to universities like Utrecht, where they are doing live projects.
I worked with a live client. It was a 14-day exchange program in the Netherlands.
Something like this obviously helps in intercultural understanding, and it enriched my knowledge about the UK. We actually went to the Deloitte's corporate office and understood the work ethic over there, what people expect from international students applying for a corporate job like that.
They have tie-ups with companies like Fashion Incubator India for students to go abroad and actually experience London, Milan, Tokyo, even Paris Fashion Week.
We'd also see the Atlas Fellows want to sort of explore more academia in New York University, London Business School, London School of Economics, University of Arts London, Parsons, CAD.
University of Michigan offered me a fellowship, and that was because how much more as a person I am bringing than just design skills.
Atlas is leading the higher education sector in India towards new horizons at par with international standards.
To have created something world-class, not just by way of infrastructure, but every single experience that we curate for the student, I really think Atlas is a nation builder.
When it comes to student experience, we look beyond the classroom while looking within it to ensure that we have the best faculty producing the best kind of teaching methodologies and pedagogies.
The Atlas classroom is actually not just the classroom. It's the campus, it's the business park we work in, it's Bombay, it's the entire world around us.
There's a way of teaching that the concept gets drilled in your head, you can say, that you never forget it for life.
If I had to just learn about different types of light and write it down, I don't think I'd learn from that as much as I would by going to an exhibition. Like, they showed us the different type of light fixtures.
The real world is much more dynamic. It requires a lot more practical hands-on work. That practical learning comes here.
What we do in the 6th semester and 7th semester is we get live projects from the industry and we embed it into the actual classroom.
Colgate gave a project, so they asked our students what are the most innovative ways that we can redesign a packaging.
Another sort of project was rebranding Maharashtra tourism. So as a class, we sort of traveled Maharashtra for 1 month. We looked at the branding, we looked at advertisements for it, like ad campaigns for the university, giving us that kind of platform to really, push our boundaries and our thinking to another level.
For most of the colleges, you have a certain period in which you can only do internship or live projects. For us, they, change our class timings accordingly, and we can go ahead and do our internship.
Whether it's a rural immersion that happens at the end of the first semester, whether it's a community project that we insist that they do at the end of their third semester, whether it's a internship with an NGO that is compulsory at the end of their second year, we build a series of experiences where they get exposed and sensitized to different situations.
We also have a whole host of different electives that allow the student to grow beyond just their specialization.
In my second semester, I did an elective on the stock market. Who thought a design student would be studying the stock market? Now, I'm India's youngest financial writer published in the Hindustan Times Live Mint.
This gives them a platform to understand, okay, hey, I'm doing business, but can I make a future in digital marketing? Maybe can I make a future in fintech? How about learning how to code?
There are barely any universities that give you that kind of exposure, that kind of options of international exposures.
When an international faculty comes and interacts with the student on specific modules, that adds a new layer of knowledge, skill and attitude.
And when I saw their presentations and research, super advanced research skills I would expect at a master's level from undergraduate level.
Here, finally, they're doing what they want to do. They are not actually preparing for exams. They are examining themselves.
So you're constantly pushed to your limits, constantly spread too thin, but eventually you grow, right? And that's what this whole place is about. It's about being conducive for growth.
I think passion for making sure that every child is a success story. I think each of us in the team has that passion.
So it's really a common dream, a common vision that sets everyone on fire over here.
It's a place for natural blossoming. The way Atlas teaches is not just by textbook, but it teaches us to teach ourselves. They literally help you with every single step. Like even if you annoy them to repeat it probably 100 times, they will go ahead and do it.
When you're lost and you're feeling very disoriented, you don't have your family here. So at that point, the faculty plays a very, very important role, because at that moment you need someone you trust enough to hold your hand.
They push you in the deep and they let you swim or drown a bit, but then they also your lifeguard to get you back and help you.
Faculties are key to the academic journey of students. So it's a conscious call of the kind of faculty we build in. You have experienced, seasoned, senior faculty members who worked many years in the industry and then decided to come to academia. You have younger faculties also.
And it's not just young in terms of age, it's in the way they sort of think. And what that does is, it makes the faculty of Atlas very accessible to the students, also very relatable to the students.
I sing, I dance, I do voices, I speak other languages to them, and they love it.
I have been a learner in the space. It is something that you walk into a classroom and you have an equal engagement. You have kind of equal potentials coming together on the table. You have equal contributions.
Also, all of them are walking encyclopedias. So they would suggest you case studies and research papers.
Faculty specialize and do research in the areas in which they teach. They're very knowledgeable in their subjects, and they can maintain high standards of academic rigor.
They also bring in a lot of different learning styles and pedagogy, and then you have your industry experts.
Having an urban campus in Mumbai, and especially located very close to BKC, where you have largest corporates available for you to work, we have people from IBM, TCS, these organizations coming and teaching with us.
For PR, my faculty at Ad Factors, he's the group head. Another professor who's a consultant for McKinsey, L'Oreal.
There's foodpreneurship. So how to start a food business. This is being done by a professor who himself has a food startup.
For example, I have actually spent about 13 years in the industry, and then I've stepped into academia, and I could build the curriculum based on my industry experience.
We have a very, very strong international connect. We are going to have what we call as the International Faculty Week, where more than 20 international faculty coming in from leading universities, and they're going to be conducting structured modules for our students.
So it's all about creating meaning. And one thing that we were working this week actually was how are you embedding your values in what you're doing?
I think for the students it's great to see both some different content but also a different style of delivery and a different emphasis on what's important. And that just adds another arrow to their quiver.
A very good afternoon and a warm welcome. We are on day 5 of the 6-day national level faculty development program on funded research projects, which has been hosted by Atlas Skilltech University, the Center of Excellence for Transformative Education, in association with Gracia. So as I said, we are on the 6th day. I would just like to go through what has happened in the last 4 days. Also, just reiterating the theme of this 6-day faculty development program. The primary objective of this FDP is to enhance the knowledge and skills of participants in effectively conceptualizing, designing, and executing funded research projects. On day 1, we had Dr. Rohit Bansal, who is the Associate Professor at Rajiv Gandhi Institute of Petroleum Technology. He spoke on the topic Fundamentals of Research Project Management. Day 2, we had Professor Sukanya Dikshit, who is the Assistant Professor at Atlas Skilltech University. She spoke on grant proposal writing and submission for minor and major research projects. Day 3, we had Dr. Mohammad Nair Rahman, who is an Assistant Professor at Aligarh Muslim University, and he spoke on the topic Budgeting, Financial Management, and Reporting. Day 4, which was yesterday, we had Dr. Somdatta Banerjee, Senior Research Fellow at Center for WTO Studies. She spoke on the topic Effective Data Collection and Analysis. And today is day 5. We have Dr. Komal Chopra, who is the Associate Professor at Symbiosis Institute of Management Studies. And he is going to be talking on project dissemination and sustainability. So a little bit more about Dr. Chopra before I hand it over to him. Dr. Komal Chopra has been working as an associate professor with Symbiosis Institute of Management Studies in Pune since 2008. Dr. Chopra has received research grants from the Ministry of HRD and 4 research grants from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. Also have been given his consultancy for various development projects, development of business plans for Tata Motors, Pune, developed rural leadership training module for Hindustan Feeds, Satara, and business orientation training module for Naman HR Services, employer building at Springer, Nature Technology and Publishing Solutions Private Limited, and pharma packaging market analysis in Europe and Latin America for Bill Care Research. Dr. Chopra has also been a speaker to various MDPs conducted by Cognizant Technologies, John Deere Equipment, Weber Empire Private Limited, Directorate General of Resettlement, Government of India, Strategic Design Making through Business Simulation, Godrej and Boyce, Wipro, Indian Oil. He has various publications, including patent publications. Many industry and academic employees benefited from his experience and expertise. With this, I would like to warmly welcome Dr. Chopra amongst us and hand it over to you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Kashyap, for this wonderful introduction. And thank you, Dr. Agarwal ma'am, for inviting me. I also like to express my gratitude to Dr. Sarika Patel, who approached me and gave me this opportunity to deliver a session at Atlas Skilltech University. While I was watching the introduction, just to an observation for Professor Kashyap, so you're head of academic experience, right? So we only talk about academics, but it's very nice to say that it's not just academics, but it's academic experience, right? So nevertheless, thank you everyone, and let me begin my session today. It will be a very interactive session, so it won't be a monologue. I'll be asking a lot of questions, and I will be taking a lot of inputs from you. And a good session is a session which becomes more engaging, where there's a two-way dialogue, where there's a two-way interaction. And I hope this session will bring out the same. So for me, it's anything about learning is not just a monologue learning, but it is more about collaborative learning, and you all will be part of it. So I'm just trying to share my screen. Just let me know if you can see it. I hope it's visible.
Yes.
Okay, is it on full screen now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Kashyap. And so let's begin the session for today. And today's day 5, and my session is on project dissemination and sustainability. So I'll start. So this is my brief introduction. Sir has already given, and I'm also available on social media platforms. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So I begin with a very fundamental question before we go ahead. What do you understand by project dissemination and sustainability? Just whatever thought comes to your mind. I'm not looking at a very structured definition, but whatever thought comes to your mind, can any of the participant answer? So I said, I want looking for a very interactive session. So anything that comes to your mind. Okay, doesn't matter. Then I'll start with a simple example. Okay, this is one of the papers I published in an A category journal, and it was also based on a project. The topic of the paper was Indian shopper motivation to use artificial intelligence, generating room expectancy theory of motivation using a grounded theory approach. Okay, I published this paper, and then I put it on ResearchGate. So I got a lot of citations. I created a Google Scholar page also. Again, I became approachable, and that's it. So is it the end of my research over here, or what more could I have done? Anyone? So I wrote a paper. I did a project on that basis. I wrote a paper and I published the paper. And I got citations because someone else quoted my paper and utilized it somewhere else. Is it the end of the paper? Is it the end of the research over here? What more could have been done? Just a simple thought.
So Dr. Komal, there are a lot of people who are responding via the chat box as well.
Okay, let them speak. I would suggest someone can unmute themselves and speak. That would be nice.
Sure. So participants, we request you to kindly raise your hand so we'll be able to unmute you, and you can then speak out your questions or suggestions that you might have.
Correct.
Yes, so participants, you can raise your hands and we can unmute you as per your request, and then you can speak.
Okay, as far any hands
Hello.
raised. Yes, ma'am, please.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Dr. Shalu Kotwani
Yes, ma'am.
from Indore. Sir, actually, the study, my core passion is to do research, and I have also published many research papers. So, what I think that the present research paper can be further explored, and obviously, you must have find out some dimensions over the AI or Indian shoppers motivation. So,
Right.
the further research can be explored on the various dimensions of the AI as well as Indian shoppers motivation. Secondly, we can compare this motivation, Indian shoppers motivation, with the foreign countries motivation. Obviously, there are some cultural differences, so there must be some differences in the motivation also. So
Right.
this is from my side.
Okay, great. Perfect. So what I understand is you will want to take this research a little further and look at what more future direction or what is the research gap and how do I want to take it further, right? Okay, anyone else? Yes, sir, Dr. I think Shalini has raised the hand. Okay, I see two participants who have raised a hand. Dr. Rekha has raised a hand. So please, someone can unmute them. So can anyone at the back end just unmute them? Bishop, sir, two people have raised their hand. Can just someone
Yeah,
unmute?
we have already unmuted them. So
Okay, okay, right.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Sir. This is Dr.
Yeah.
Shalini from Bangalore.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the title of your research is Indian Shoppers' Motivation to Use Artificial Intelligence.
Okay.
I mean, that's wonderful. Now, how this research can be taken forward is what next? Like, artificial intelligence is there today, but tomorrow, what could be the next technology that is coming up? So, can this your research be used as a base, and we can further develop based on the evolving technology that comes? I mean, this is just a thought I got.
Okay. Dr. Rekha, anything
Good
you want to
afternoon,
add?
sir. I'm
Yeah.
Rekha Mishra from New Delhi.
Right, ma'am.
And sir, I'm of the view that insight that you have evolved from this study should be shared with the marketers and the people who are selling the product. And since they don't read the research papers, it will be good if you write an article in magazine or a newspaper where they are more likely to go, so that they benefit from the study that you have made and the insight that you have drawn. So that would be real implementation of your findings also. Thank you.
Absolutely, Dr. Rekha, you have absolutely mentioned. So what happens, I'll give a chance to Dr. Meenakshi. So what happens, I wrote a research paper, I published it in an academic journal. All the academicians saw it, they saw the research gap, and they started writing papers on it. But what happened is that my research became limited to only the academic circles. So in my research paper, I wrote something called as a practical application or implications of my research. Who is using my research, and how do I communicate to that person about my research? So that is the larger question. So that brings us to the topic why we are talking about project dissemination. I do a project, I publish a paper, it remains confined to the academic world. So who are the stakeholders of my project? So if it's a project on artificial intelligence, definitely there are technology companies, there are retailers, and there are consumers. So how do I make sure that the outcome of my research or the findings of my research reach all these stakeholders? And how is it applicable practically in the practical world? And how people can use this research to further improvise on the artificial intelligence tools that I've talked about? So that brings us to the larger question why we are talking about project dissemination. And again, I talk about the definition of project dissemination. It is an essential step to share the results, findings, and outcomes of your project with a wider audience to have an impact. So again, I reiterate, if I had just published a paper and a few of the researchers have quoted it, cited my paper, and are publishing, it remains confined to the academic world. It is not having an impact beyond the academic world. I want that retail organizations who are using artificial intelligence should use it for their consumers, or the consumers should adopt it, benefit from it, or the technology companies who are defining or deciding these artificial tools to use it, right? That is the impact of my research. Now, again, there are two perspectives to this. One is the professional aspect or the research aspect. My research can be used at many places and people can benefit from it. The second aspect is I, as an individual, as a researcher, also get recognized. I get noticed. As of now, I'm only getting noticed in the academic world because I've got a LinkedIn page, I've got a Google Scholar page, and I'm there on ResearchGate, and I'm there on all the research platforms. But again, I'm visible only to the academic world. Tomorrow, you as researchers should put this research to use, should do some consultancy out of it, should be able to also bid for more projects because of your experience. So it's also important that you get noticed, you get recognized, and you also brand yourself. See, I'm using the very marketing word over here, branding. Okay, so you also brand yourself from this. So again, the major objective over here is when we talk about research project dissemination, it's about sharing your complete knowledge or sharing the outcomes of your research with the more wider audience who can benefit from your research. And that's why we call it project dissemination. Okay. So now I take this forward. Now there are different kinds of funded research projects. Before I get into project dissemination, I understand that there are different kinds of funded projects. And I'll just give an overview of these projects and how they can be utilized. The government projects are more of what I have done in the project space is more of either research or implementation kind of projects. So government wants to change a policy or government wants to improvise a policy, and then through different ministries, whether it is Ministry of Corporate Affairs, whether it is Department of Science and Technology, whether it is through Council of Medical Research, gives funded projects, and the outcome of the project is used for the public good or it's used for policy making. There's another set of projects which is called implementation projects. In implementation projects is like the government wants to launch a training program, and it wants to collaborate or hire institutions for conducting these training programs. So implementation projects is you have to bid for a proposal where you want to organize a conference, you want to organize a symposium, or you want to organize a training program. And what will be the expenses? How will you do it? What will be the outcome? Who will benefit? So that is kind of a project. Okay, so government project is got a very specific, and the findings again of a government project can be utilized, is beneficial to the government and is also beneficial to the other stakeholders. Now, when I look at corporate projects are more of consulting kind of projects. So in the corporate world, it's all about business. So when I talk to the companies, and I'll give you a very classic example. I was doing training program for one of the prominent companies, and they were reading my research paper, and they asked me only one question, what is the return on investment of your paper? So you understand that in the corporate world, if you are trying to pitch yourself, if you're trying to pitch your research, if you're trying to disseminate knowledge in the corporate world, it has to be linked to money, it has to be linked to business, and it has to be linked to return on investment. So in the corporate world, they're less inclined towards research and more inclined towards business objective, meeting business goals, how they can increase their growth, how they can increase their revenue. It's more inclined towards that. Then we have the academic research projects. So academic research projects, every one of us is aware, every one of us does academic projects, and they are more inclined to creating some new knowledge or creating some novelty or adding to the existing body of knowledge, right? So that is what academic projects are. Nevertheless, academic projects can also have a strong bearing, or the implications or research or the results of academic project can also be used very well in the corporate world. We do a lot of academic projects, and these reports we send to companies from our end, and then companies evaluate these reports. If they find it useful, our students get placed or the faculty gets a consulting assignment for them. Right. So again, it's nothing but dissemination of knowledge to someone who can benefit from it. The last category of projects is social projects, and social projects can be of any kind. Most of the projects are done by NGOs. What I know from NGOs and foundations do a lot of social projects, and here the objective purely is doing some social good and creating an impact on the society. Again, it can be a research project or it can be an implementation kind of projects. Among the four, there can be another category of projects which we call as international projects. So international projects, again, there are of two types. One is an international funding agency who wants to do some kind of research, maybe in the Asia Pacific region or in India, and you get a project. And another is a collaborative projects. So a lot of agencies collaborate with organizations in India. So you see an Indo-Canadian, Indo-German funding agency funding a lot of projects, and there the dissemination of knowledge is for, it happens globally. Okay, so when you're doing the project, you have to have a global perspective, that how the global audience or how the global outlook will look at your findings or how they would benefit from it. So the starting point of dissemination of knowledge is I need to understand my key stakeholders for whom I'm doing my project. So is my stakeholder the government? Is my stakeholder the corporate? Is my stakeholder academia? Is it social, or is it a mix of both? Okay, who can benefit from my research? That's important. So one major aspect that I see in dissemination of results or dissemination of the findings of my project or dissemination of knowledge is about how my research or how my studies can be used outside the academic world, outside of my projects, how it can be utilized. Okay. Now, how do I communicate? Okay, so there are certain mediums through which I communicate. A couple of them, you know, these mediums, and you can utilize them. Social media is a very good way. So within social media also, there are a lot of categories and subcategories that you can utilize. For the academic world, definitely all of us know this well, academia.edu and ResearchGate. It's also important for you to participate in conferences, seminars. So once you have done a project, you can share your findings, or you can talk about it on different forums, participate in conferences. Say, for example, I give you an example. I did one research project on shopping malls. Okay, so on shopping malls, it's totally a retail oriented project. And I presented this, the findings of my research. So they're more interested in findings. They're not interested in how did you go about the research. Okay, so I'm just talking about the findings. And so I presented I made a small presentation about this in Retailers Association of India and the Shopping Center Association of India, right? So that's how the appreciation happened. So also I was called by a few shopping malls because it was related to it, and that's how I was able to disseminate my knowledge. So it gives me a standing, it gives me a recognition. I was also able to write an article on. So there was one magazine called Images Retail. This magazine was from the Shopping Center Association of India, so I was able to contribute to that, right? So people in the retail industry would benefit through my knowledge, or would benefit from whatever the research I've done or whatever the findings I've come out with. Then another good way is also having good amount of videos. So since this is more of a branding exercise, you can have a video. The video talks about it's an opinion of people on your research, or it's like a MOOC where you communicate what your research is about, or it's about the findings of your research, or you can also make a storyline of a video. So that is also possible. And I'll tell you why we are talking of all these, because when you disseminate knowledge to the outside world, all people in the outside world do not have an academic, are not from the academia, right? So people are from different backgrounds. So whatever knowledge, whatever findings of your research you disseminate to the outside world, make sure that you're speaking in the language of the common man, or you're speaking the language of the stakeholders, right? So in our academic world, we have got our own jargons, we have got our own academic, academic writing and how we write, but that's not the same way when you communicate to your outside stakeholders. So give you an example, if I want to communicate about my results to the corporate world, I would more talk about business, I would talk about return on investment, I would talk about market penetration, I would talk about market growth. If I had to disseminate the same findings to the academic world, I would talk about how it's adding to the body of knowledge, what new findings are there, what novelty is there. If I was to communicate to the government, I would more focus on how this can be a part of their policy, how would they benefit, right? So everything boils down to the expectations of your stakeholders, and how your results or your findings of your research add value to the or meet the expectations of the stakeholders. In addition, I also urge that you should you should keep writing, just not doing projects, but based on the projects, a lot of projects I've seen, they encourage you to write research papers. You can come out with a case study, you can come out with a white paper. Research papers are obviously there. You can write an article on this and you can publish it. So it gives you a standing, it will help you to get more consulting assignments, it will give you recognition in that area. And you also look forward as an expert in that area. Then also join some professional associations in your area. So I'm a member of ISTD, that's Indian Society for Training and Development, Retailers Association of India, Shopping Center Association of India. You can also join some of these groups. Then there are a lot of community groups. Okay, so while we go on LinkedIn, while we go on other social media channels, a lot of community groups. I touch each of these in detail. And you can directly also contact some of the important stakeholders for whom you think your research will be beneficial, right? So again, this is very important. If you have to disseminate your knowledge, it means it's more of a marketing communication kind of an activity, right? So you have to get into that mode, and that's how you communicate or you disseminate your knowledge to the outside world. So there is a real-time impact. Okay, so what is essential to see is that whether your research is being used and there's a real-time impact on it, that's important to understand. I see a lot of research in the academic world. There is not, so if there is a issue, or I would say, if there is a problem, maybe a corporate problem, or maybe a problem related to the social sector, or problem related to the government sector, it must have already been addressed in some kind of research paper or some kind of project or some kind of research findings. I often see this. It's the only thing is they don't know about it, and we know about it, but we stay in our own silos, and we don't communicate much with the outside world about. So we are not like other countries where universities go hand in hand with the industry to disseminate knowledge, and industries go hand in hand to disseminate knowledge, and they utilize it. So we have to actually market ourselves. We have to actually communicate about this to the outside world. Social media is a very good way to communicate about your knowledge, to communicate about your findings to the outside world. And apart from ResearchGate and academia, YouTube, you can come out with a lot of YouTube videos. You can make a small presentation about your findings. You can start your own YouTube channel. You can, so people respond to it. And you can also then go for digital, what I could say, search engine optimization, so that you figure your video figures prominently among when someone is searching based on keywords or based on hashtags, right? And that's how you disseminate knowledge. LinkedIn, I've seen, has picked up in the last recent years. I see so much of professionalism, and I see a lot of people putting posts, whether it is from the academia world, whether it is from the corporate world, or whether it is from even projects. There are so many groups which have got projects, project related groups also. I see so much information coming about it. So you can also utilize that. And one thing that I don't see on social media is to tell you very honestly, and I think that is what sometimes hampers. So if I go on LinkedIn, people generally want to boast of their achievements. Okay, so I did this certification course, I published this paper, I got this project. And because of that, some of the social media groups, even in LinkedIn, I see, especially these community groups, they become redundant, or people lose interest. So if you have come out with something and it is adding value to all those members of the group, definitely it gets picked up, and definitely there is more activity happening on that community group. So while I see so many things happening, if you're very focused on social media to just communicate and to see that you're added the right value propositions, which is going to benefit one of the stakeholders, which is there on the social media platform, it is definitely going to work out. Say for example, if I'm looking for a consulting assignment and my research is on shopping, and I would try to add it, I would try to share these findings on some platform where most of the retail segment is connected, most of the retailers are connected. Or if I want to disseminate my findings to maybe the manufacturing industry, I would want to connect to more of those groups where they are connected and share these findings, right? So I would not prefer. So again, how you share findings is also important. Generally I see when people want to share their findings, they generally, just put a post with an image of their research paper, so that doesn't create interest. Okay, so now there is so much of knowledge, there is so much of information overload and overflow that people read very less. Okay, so how you disseminate your findings is also very important. So there are three aspects to it. When I talk about knowledge dissemination, or when I talk about information dissemination, there are three aspects to it. The first important thing is what you communicate to the outside world, okay, about your project or about your findings of your project. Second thing is which is the right medium of communication. And third is how do you communicate? Okay, three important aspects which we deal with during the course of our session today. Now I come to a very important aspect, that I see in recent years, videos. Okay, and here I want to actually share a very good video with you. And this video will tell you that how communication has happened. So before we discuss further on videos and the role of videos in disseminating knowledge, in disseminating what projects you do, let's have a look at the video and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so before I show the video I'll just give a brief. The video is about Mother Nature, and the video is about Apple. It's making a lot of rounds. It's a very good video they have designed, and they have actually spoken about what work they are doing in that area. So we'll have a look at that video, and then we'll discuss further on it. So I just make sure that it is audible everywhere. Okay?
Dr. Komal, we cannot see the video.
Okay, sir. I'll just stop it. Okay, I don't know how to go about it now.
So you will have to stop sharing, or maybe when you go to the bottom of the screen, you will see share screen option. And in that, you'll have to choose the video window.
Okay, so
yeah, now if you share screen,
yeah,
and you will see there is somewhere the video will show up.
So where the video? Okay, yeah, it has shown. Okay, because video was part of my presentation.
Yeah, so it will have to.
Okay, I got to share video. Okay, fine, I got it there.
Yeah.
Now can you see it?
Yes, now we can see, and just make sure you share the audio also. At the bottom of the share screen, when you share, there's a checkbox.
Okay.
Just if you stop sharing and reshare.
Yeah, I do that.
There's a checkbox that says share audio also.
Share sound. Okay, I got it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry. Right. So again, you saw Apple is doing a lot of initiatives, and internally is doing a lot of projects. But what I liked most was the way they have communicated to the outside world, the way they have communicated to the audience on how they are doing in a very innovative manner, right? And so again, when we talk about videos, the video itself has to create an impact, and the video has to ensure that people get inspired by it. So few important things when we design videos, and especially when it comes to research. Now let's take the other end. Had Apple just published some articles, had Apple just published some papers, or had Apple just come out with some case studies on all these initiatives that it is doing, it would not have created that kind of an impact, because it would have led to some information overload, and with so much of information, people don't read much about it. So again, if I look at the psychology or human psychology, something that is visual and something that is audio, written text. So if you can just make a 1 or 2 minute good video of your research findings and how it will be useful, and you can come out with a storyline, just as we saw in Apple, you can decide how you want to go about it. Definitely, it creates a greater impact. Definitely, it has a greater engagement with the audience, and definitely the information dissemination is much faster. So again, had it just been an article, had it just been a case study, had it just been an information or just a presentation, I don't think it would have made much of an impact. But just because it was introduced in a video form, it was very innovative and it made an impact. So again, what is important is that how you disseminate your research findings, and there is no hard and fast rule for it. It's all about what will have a greater impact, or how the audience want to look at it, or how much you can communicate in minimum amount of time, how much maximum amount of information you can communicate in minimum amount of time, that creates a greater impact, right? So again, I said, generally in the academic world, or as someone from the project management side, I would find how will video generally create an impact, but you see this is an innovative way and it can create an impact. Also, a lot of companies publish case studies. So a lot of projects that have been done can also be disseminated through case studies. And there are a lot of forums which publish case studies. It's not necessary that it should be an academic journal. If I see case studies in an academic journal, they're very detailed oriented. They're very rigorous in terms of their methodology, in terms of their findings. See, case studies should have only 2-3 things. One is the problem statement, second is what the solution you're offering, and third is who's going to benefit from it. Even a one-page case study, if you publish on social media, or if you publish in the form of an article, or if you publish in the form of a blog, that will have a much greater impact on the audience. So the catch over here is that how you can communicate maximum amount of information in minimum amount of time. Okay, that is what is the key. So again, case studies, whatever steps I've given you in the case study approach, just one small paragraph, and if you can sum up the case just in one page, I think that will be good enough, and that would generally have a greater impact on the audience. So that's another way of communicating. So again, if you want to be more into the consulting world, if you want to spread your knowledge and want to get some consulting assignments out of it, or you want to see its impact in the consulting world, definitely a case study approach is desirable, right? So again, depending on whom your stakeholder is, the approach is adopted. So if it was a video, the video doesn't have much impact. If it is, I'm pitching myself to a government organization, okay, for them an article or white paper is good enough. That is how their approach. But if I'm pitching it to a corporate organization, then a video will be good enough. If I'm pitching it to a consulting organization or for a consultancy purpose, then a case study would be good enough. Another important area that I often see and is about communities. Okay, so online we see a lot of community groups, and while I see that each community group has got more than 10,000 followers, what I see is not much activity happening in the groups, or the activity is more not towards what the objective of the group is. So if you want to disseminate knowledge, if you want that your knowledge reaches the right people on the right forum, and form a community, no doubt, like every community is there, you can form a group, add people to it, but make sure that you meet the objective or add value through its members in the community. Say for example, I join an academic community, or I join a research community, and or maybe I join a project community, and in that I just see people talking about their own research, or I just see people trying to promote themselves, their achievements, then talking about research or talking about projects. Okay, what their achievements are. Now again, while that all is fine, I have nothing against anyone. It is perfectly okay. You should propagate yourself and your achievement. But again, it is not adding value to me. If it's a group that promotes research, or if it's a group that promotes an objective of maybe if I'm forming a group, say for example, if I'm forming a group on sustainability, and I really want to understand that how people will contribute to climate change, then I would expect that in that group, most of the posts that come in that group should relate to how we can make our planet better. Okay, or how we can contribute to our planet, or those who have done research in that area, what are the findings. So that would generally add more value, right? But just saying that I published a paper here, I got an award here, I did this certification course, I don't think so it really leads to an engagement. Fine, it's a good way on your personal front, yes, but this personal front you can promote it on a personal page, but not on a community page. So if you want to really disseminate your findings, create a group and create some engaging content, that people contribute to it. So if you create a content where people, where it generates curiosity, where it makes people to contribute, where it makes people to really discuss, come out with some good solution. And out of those good findings, you can actually write a good article, or it can also contribute to your further research work. Then it makes sense. So while there are so many communities, I see some of the communities over a period of time become redundant, or they are no longer active because people generally don't see value. So while it's a good idea to have communities, especially in the online world, but also make sure that that community is actually adding a lot of value. Then you can also publish some blogs, and lot of blogs are there. So depending on the area from which you come, there are blogs in the area of science, there are blogs in the area of management, there are blogs in the area of medical research, and you can also have your own blogs. So also there are a lot of universities which have their own blogs. Academic journals have their own blogs. So going back, if you're publishing in academic journal the findings of your research and you want to further discuss and disseminate it, the best way is also do it through a blog. Okay, so blogs is another important way to communicate about your research, to communicate a bit about your findings to the outside world. Just Google out, and it's not very difficult to find out. Just Google out and type the right keywords, and I'm sure you will be able to get connected to the right blog or to the right platform that can disseminate the findings of your research. Okay. Now, how do I disseminate my findings? Okay, so this was what we talked about, the mediums of research. Okay, now next question is, how do I disseminate findings? So just as we saw in a video, so video was about creating a storyline, having characters in the video, and through that characters, we communicate to the outside world about what exactly we are doing. So that was a very professional video. If you can make it through a professional team, nothing like it. But on a general level, when I communicate to the outside world, I make sure that, I use certain tools which are more effective. The most simplest tool is when I do a project, I make sure that I have Excel, so everyone has got it. Then I also use SPSS or similar kind of tools which can give me statistical data or statistical analysis, which can be in the form of tables, again, which can be the form of graphs, or in a simple word, I would say infographics. So if you want to really communicate about your findings, if you want to really communicate about data, it makes more sense to communicate through infographics, through tables, through pie charts. Okay, so giving you another very simple example. So I've done this project for Springer Nature, and I remember, they're telling me that everything should be communicated only in one slide. Can you imagine? After doing 6 months of project, the entire whatever was my findings was to be shared only in one slide, right? So today, the time span or attention span has become so small that whatever you communicate to the outside world has to be communicated with minimum amount of information and having a maximum impact, right? Then also make sure, so I found this software Tableau very useful. In Tableau, you can create a dashboard and communicate everything about your findings. So I think I have got that. Okay, I'll cover it. You can communicate about your findings. And again, the best part of Tableau that I saw was that it has got a static dashboard and it's got a dynamic dashboard also. So by dynamic dashboard, I know that I understand that, if I make certain changes in one of the variables or one of the infographics, all the results can change in the same pattern, right? So it's a dynamic dashboard. And nowadays software is available. Tableau is one of the good software that I use. There may be many other which are available that can help you to make this kind of infographics. That becomes easier for you to communicate to the outside world. So as of now, people don't just want to read information, but if you communicate through visuals, if you communicate through audio, or if you communicate through audio visuals, I think that's the best way to communicate to the outside world. The same way, if you're doing some qualitative research, or if your project is into some qualitative aspects, you can use NVivo software. A couple of these software also have a free version. So if you're not heavily inclined towards it, the free version is good enough. If you get good project funding, you can also buy these softwares in their project funding. Another good tool that I found, and it's very useful, is about using this tool called Question Pro. So if I have to design a questionnaire, just as we have a Google form, Question Pro is on the same lines, but the advantage of Question Pro is that it can do the entire analysis for you. Google form has got a lot of limitations in terms of what kind of analysis can be done. But in Question Pro, I have seen that a lot of statistical analysis also can be done, right? So in that sense, Question Pro is a very good tool. So you can have the questionnaire also, and you can whatever, when people fill the questionnaire, the entire statistical analysis can also be done simultaneously. So in your project, because we have to communicate our findings, we have to make sure that we have all these tools, and these tools help us to create certain kind of infographics. Okay, because most of the dissemination of information or dissemination of knowledge that happens in projects to the outside world, one of the best mediums is to communicate through infographics. Now let's come to the different kind of projects and how do we disseminate information. We'll discuss on it, and while I'll give you an example, I'll also ask you some questions about it, and let's see that it becomes a little more interactive. Now let's come to government projects. Okay, so I've done a couple of government projects from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. I did a project with ICSSR, Indian Council of Social Science Research. Currently, I'm doing a project with Department of Scientific and Industrial Research. And so now there are two aspects. So first is, how do you communicate to the agency about your results, and how do you communicate to the outside world? So if I want to communicate to the agency, okay, so let me tell you, so I'll start. So I've given you two problem statements over here. One part I'll deal with, and the other part I'll ask you to deal with it. Say, suppose I did a project on with National Foundation of Corporate Governance on the role of women directors or training needs of women directors, women independent directors. Now, again, when I give my results to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs or to NFCG, again, they don't want, what they're interested is in what is the new thing that I'm going to tell them. Okay, if I just talk about training needs, that they also understand. Okay, so what is new in my study? What are the new insights that I'm contributing in my study is that is more important. That can have an impact on their policy recommendation. So again, to give you an example, when we did this study, the first thing we found that there were not too many independent directors when it came to women on boards of companies. There were not too many independent directors. And I think there's a rule which says that at least you need to have 2 women independent directors on board. So most of the boards were just fulfilling these requirements. And so you see the new insight over here is not about training. The new insight is that we are having less number of women on the board of directors. And so the entire research took a different direction. And when we gathered more data, we found that so women, when they reach a certain position, when they come close to retirement, and when it comes for them to join boards as independent directors, they would be more interested to incline towards a family life than to be on the professional front. Okay, so that's one reason we found that it was hampering women to actually join boards. Secondly, it was also that women were not aware. So if I want to be an independent director of a company, women were not aware of how do we approach companies or how do we do it, right? So the whole objective over here completely changed, and it was not about just training, but it was a new insight that we found, that we don't have too many women directors, and why we don't have. So if you give a new insight, that gives it's like a fodder for the government to design policies or to improvise on their existing policies. So any new insight that you can give them, that generally has value. Second thing is, in government projects, they also expect you to make a roadmap of execution. Okay, so whatever, it's not just the findings of a study, but how do you think it can be improvised, or what is the further roadmap that you think can be done? So if I'm talking about training needs of independent directors, the roadmap starts with, first is, how do I encourage more women directors in joining the corporate boards? So it starts from there. What is the roadmap? How do I spread awareness? How do they come to know? How do they apply? Where do they go? Then we talk about the training needs. Okay, so the entire roadmap has to be designed and given to it. Secondly, if it's a roadmap, what is the feasibility of or commercial viability? How much it is going to cost companies, or how much is the training cost going to go? How the training will be administered? So the entire roadmap has to be designed. So in government projects, actually, the main objective over doing government projects is or dissemination of knowledge in government project, it is utilized in policy designing. Okay, so that is the objective. Now, how do I present in the government project report? So again, we have got infographics. You can give flow charts. That's a very good way. You can have a tree map. Again, you can have a dashboard. You can write a white paper, article, and maybe even a research paper, right? So again, when my report goes to the government, while the report gets reviewed, the more emphasis is on the findings. Okay, and when they look at the findings, they just want to see what exactly you want to say. And the same infographics also works when you communicate to the outside world. So if your project was on independent directors on the board of companies, then definitely this is a very useful project for all the organizations who are recruiting women into on their boards. So again, this would add a lot of value to them. So how do I disseminate this information to them? So they become my key stakeholders. Now, again, I can't send them an article. I can't send them a white paper because they would not read it. Okay, they don't have so much amount of time. So definitely I would use flowcharts. I would use infographics. I would use, more simpler techniques where the communication happens better and also they understand. Also, I would connect to those companies on those forums. So I would like to join Association of Indian Chamber of Commerce, or I would like to join, Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce, or all those industry associations. I would want to make a presentation there about my findings, or I would want to, communicate on their official platform or on their social media platform, so that they know that this was the research, that this is the findings. So one good advantage is that you get good recognition, and probably you may get a consulting assignment, or you may get some more projects on this, right? And it has got an impact. So one major reason why I see, or how I see, is communicating about your project's findings to the outside world is to have an impact. And beyond the impact, you can also see the impact assessment, what changes have been made when you have presented the projects. So this is some of the infographics that I've shown you. Okay, so all this I made on Tableau. So Tableau is one of the very good softwares. I think you should buy it. If you don't want to buy it, there is a free version available, right? So Tableau gives you everything, whether it's a chart, whether it's a graph, whether it's a tree map, and you can interlink all the three together. So what you see over here is actually a static dashboard, but I can also make it a dynamic dashboard. So dynamic dashboard means, if I on the extreme left, if I have product sales, and if I change the sales by a certain number, all the other graphs would change simultaneously. Okay, so that's a dynamic dashboard, and definitely you should use some of these tools to create dashboards. Again, as I said, where I should present the government projects. So you can do a lot of workshops, seminars, and conferences. You can participate in industry forums. You can participate, and also have direct relevance with the stakeholders. Okay, so again, the stakeholders means all those people who would benefit from my research. So I know that if I have to talk about my research in this area, the key stakeholders or the key people who would benefit from my research are going to be the corporate boards of the companies, as well as the women independent directors. Okay, so I'm trying to look for a platform where I can connect more with the women directors, or I can connect with these corporate boards, maybe on certain discussion forums, or maybe on certain industry forums, or maybe through seminars and through conferences, make a presentation and disseminate my findings. Then let's come to another area where we talk about corporate projects. Okay, now you see the difference between what a government project is and what a corporate project is. Okay, so when I look at a corporate project, the more focus is on what new insights are there on the study, what are the implications for government agencies, what are the policy recommendations, and what is the roadmap for execution. Now again, when I come into a corporate project, it is more about business. So when you talk about corporate, it is more about business. It's more about revenue generation. It's more about profits. They are looking for a business solution and a return on investment. Okay, so that is the challenge. So again, I'll share some of the findings. So I did these the two projects in the corporate that I've done, and one again project was about market opportunities for telemedicine. And again, when I did this project, so it was more on the digital marketing initiatives that I'd done for the company. And again, their objective was, so when I communicate my findings to the company, they're more interested in data. Okay, so the findings have to be communicated more in terms of numbers. Okay, so the first finding was that if I go for digital marketing, if I go for search engine optimization, how much first thing is how much it would cost me. Second is how many leads I can generate in terms of revenue, how much conversion can happen, how much business I can get from the countries where I'm doing digital marketing. So that is what they're looking at. Right. So everything in the corporate world, when you're doing a corporate project, boils down to numbers. Okay. So when you have to communicate or disseminate your findings in the corporate world, they're more interested in numbers than interested in the solution. Okay. So while I'm claiming the solution has to be more in numbers. So whether I communicate through a dashboard, whether I communicate through other mediums of data, whether I do an ROI calculation, return on investment calculation, everything has to be communicated in numbers to them. And finally, they're also looking at a business plan. So finally, how do we achieve this? So again, when I did a project on telemedicine in Indian and European countries, I had to make two business plans. So India specific business plan was different, and business plan for Europe was different because the two markets are very different. And again, since it was digital marketing, one key factor that I found when I did research on them was that they had one common web platform for both Indian and international market. So one key insight that I gave them, or one business plan that I gave them, was that you should have the Indian market is totally different, the European market is totally different. Again, within Europe, there are different countries. So if you are trying to promote yourself in the European market, every country should have its own web platform or web page. If you're promoting to in the Indian space, again, the Indian web platform should look very Indian. Okay, so you can't have one international platform and say that, it's a common thing for disseminating knowledge to all. It's a common thing for all countries where you can, propagate. So again, so why I communicated this, just communicating this was not good enough. So I had to write in my report, or when I had to make a presentation to them, I had to actually tell them that if you're having a telemedicine platform in Spain, actually how much revenue you can generate, how many leads you can generate, how much business you can generate, how much market penetration can happen, what are the other competitors doing about it. So everything that I communicated was in terms of numbers. Okay, so that numbers has got a greater impact, and that's how they would understand that better. Again, I had to also make a business plan which tells that how do we go about whether we should go about in phases, what are the timelines, and how should we go about doing this project. So again, you see the government project more inclined towards social good, more inclined towards public development. But when you come to a corporate project, it's more about business. So again, you see how the information gets disseminated. The way I communicate information in the government is different. The way I communicate information in the corporate is totally different. Okay, so these are two different aspects. Again, I use different mediums in corporate. So again, one important rider that I want to tell you over here is that when we do a corporate consultancy project, generally companies sign a non-disclosure agreement. Okay, so because of that, you cannot disseminate findings. But nevertheless, companies also, you may not talk about what the results are openly, but again, you can have your own solution. You can mask the name of the company, and you can, if you want to do it further, your experience in that company will actually help you. So you can write a case study, or you can talk about it. That's good enough. While I can't share the actual findings with the company, but definitely what work I have done in generalized way, you can communicate. Okay, so specifically, you cannot talk about a company in your findings that this was the company and this is what I done and this was the findings, but you have to generalize the findings. Okay, so if I was talking about a telemedicine platform, how will it be applicable to maybe a pharma packaging platform, or how it will be applicable to maybe what I can say, maybe some other platform, right? So I can generalize my findings, and that generalized findings I can communicate. Okay, so this is one rider you have to be very careful and make sure that because you have to maintain the confidentiality of the company, and that is of prime importance. But again, whatever you learned or whatever the strategy was, that same strategy can apply to other companies also. So I will not talk about the results of those companies, but I can talk about the strategy that can be applicable to other segment in other companies. So if I'm disseminating my knowledge about corporate projects, I'm just talking about in general, that if you have a platform which is on the same industry or which is on the related industry, how do I communicate it? How do I, if I communicate the findings and how it will be applicable to other industries? Okay, so that is what I can talk about. Then we come to third aspect is academic projects. Okay, academic projects, again, we all keep doing academic projects, and what we see in academic projects is more about the academic rigor. And again, in academic projects, the more focus is on what knowledge you're adding or what contribution you have made to the existing body of knowledge. Okay, that is very important. And again, in academic projects, so there are a lot of agencies, the government agencies. So the project that I did was for Indian Council Social Science Research, and that was on academic libraries. And I had used the Bloom's expectancy theory, just as I use it for shopping. But again, theory generation and testing is the key that they look for in academic projects. Again, the rigor in methodology, and finally, how it can help the academic world in policy recommendations or can make an academic impact. Nevertheless, you can also talk about findings of the academic project to the outside world. Okay, so that is important. So again, the same case if I'm talking about technology tools and their adoption in education. So if I'm talking about this, so how so education, technology tools in education is all about learning. Okay, so the learning can also be applied to other courses outside the academic world. So a lot of online platforms like Coursera, a lot of online platforms like edX, they offer so many other courses, and how technology adoption tools can be applicable to them, I can talk about. Right. So again, when you're disseminating your findings, make sure that it is also how it can be generalized across other industries, how it can be generalized across other stakeholders. And again, that will give you an important standing in the market, and that will give you recognition about your work, right? And that will have an impact on the industry. That is very important. So for me, it's not just about doing a project, it's about how I can make a greater impact to the society, how can make a greater impact to business, how I can make a greater impact to industry. That's very important. Again, I'll give you one very important, so I'll tell you about this project, how institutions can increase usage of academic libraries. And that was a very interesting project. I'll also share the findings with you, and I'll tell you how it was used in the outside world. And this was actually what we did. The major finding of this was when we go to an academic library, it's more of a place for studying. It's more of a quiet place. It's more of a very academic oriented place. But the major findings of the study was that students don't want academic library to be more of a library. They want more it to be a book cafe. Okay. So again, you see the findings were very clear, and someone outside in the corporate world started these book cafes. So you see the research got disseminated, paper got published on it, and definitely the findings were used by someone and implemented in the corporate world. So that gave rise to another business about book cafes. Okay, so the concept was similar to what Crossword had, but again, you see a project was something else and it got utilized somewhere else, right? So again, in academic projects, if I'm talking about validation of presentation of data, definitely it's more about tables, graphs that we normally do in a research paper. Right, validation of theories is very important, and how the implications of research will work out. That's very important. Okay, so any questions still here before I move ahead? So I think it's already 1 hour completed. If anyone has questions, I can take maybe 3-4 questions and I can move ahead.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Sir, this can be applied for student projects?
Yes, absolutely. I think, a very good point you have mentioned. So students do a lot of dissertation projects, and what we used to earlier do is, the findings of the dissertation projects we used to publish on our web platform and also through social media. And definitely it had a greater impact, because of which the students also got their placements, and also we could get through some consultancy projects. Yes, definitely you should be doing it, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so let me move forward if there are no more questions. Again, academic projects, we as academicians attend a lot of conferences, we present papers, we write case studies, we are part of communities, and it can be disseminated. Okay. Now let's come to social projects, okay? And here, rather than me talking, I'll ask you this question. I want to understand how will you address this issue, okay? So just look at the problem statement. The school and college dropout rate of students has increased in recent years. How can this issue be addressed? Okay, I've just given you a simple problem statement. I just want to understand that how will you disseminate information about this? First is what you have understood from this, what insight you know about this, whatever you know, and how will you disseminate information about this? Simple, okay? So now we come to social projects, from academic projects, corporate projects, and government projects. Now we come to social projects. So whatever comes in your mind, I'm okay with it. So just look at the problem statement and tell me how will you disseminate results.
For sir, for
yes. Anyone?
For understanding the issues, social issues, how it will impact society, and inclusion of a research problem in the paper, sir.
Okay, great. Right. So again, now when we talk about social projects are little different from government projects, academic projects, or industry projects. Why we do social projects is to do some social good, or socially it should benefit we should benefit the society. So why we do this project is for the benefit of society, right? Now, if I try to understand this issue, okay, if I know that the school dropout rate of students has increased in recent years, now I would rather first get into the background to understand that why this dropout rate. It may not necessarily be that people don't want to study, that's why there's a dropout rate. There could be different reasons. There could be a money problem, or maybe some people want to start, or maybe people are staying in a rural area, so accessibility of education becomes a problem. Or maybe people are more inclined towards starting their business than looking at education and completing it later on, right? There could be multiple issues, right? So again, what is important over here is understanding the issue, and also trying to understand what are the key insights that can be addressed. Now, again, when it comes to education, we talk about inclusivity. Again, the national education policy is talking about inclusive education. So again, this issue we can address. How do we integrate these students who have dropped out? How can we bring them back? So if you can come out with a roadmap on how we can bring these students back into the education manifold, I think that is what will create an impact. Okay, and if I'm looking at how to present my findings, or how to understand how to present the results, I have to also talk to a lot of key stakeholders. Can someone mute? Okay. I can also talk to a lot of stakeholders. So the stakeholders in social projects could be NGOs, could be educationists, could be government officers, could be other people who are working in this, could be academicians, could be other people who are working in this area, or who are working in this social area. So their opinion matters a lot, because they have got more experience, and they're able to bring in more key insights. Then again, in social project, what is important is the impact assessment. So by impact assessment, I mean that the findings are not only related to why there is a dropout rate, it's also related to how do I solve this problem. Okay, so in social world, it's more about not what the problem is and how big the problem is. It's more about how you have solved that problem or how you can solve that problem, right? So that is the impact assessment. That impact assessment actually goes into the policy recommendations. So the government comes out with different schemes, for people, to encourage people for education, and how it can go to the different schemes. Also, similarly, when we talk about education, we can have a financial roadmap for people who cannot afford education, right? So that can also be a reason. So again, to explain in the entire nutshell, when we talk about social projects, the whole objective over here is to do social good, okay, and how it can benefit the society as a whole. And within the social projects, you have key stakeholders. So generally, social projects are done by foundations, they're done by NGOs, they're done by trusts, and nowadays you also have got Section 8 companies. So a lot of Section 8 companies is actually a company to do corporate social responsibility under the Indian Companies Act 2013, right? So so they become my key stakeholders, the funding agencies, the community workers, the NGOs, the foundations. They're the one who will actually make an impact. You and me can only do research, can come out with findings and can make a roadmap. But these people who matter a lot and who can create an impact. So it's important for me to disseminate my results to this section of my stakeholders. Okay. Now, how do I communicate? Okay, so again, now I've shown you over here for a social project. If I write a research paper, if I write an article, if I write maybe a blog, I think many people will not read it, or the impact won't be that much. Okay, but what will work is if I make a documentary movie on it, if I make a MOOC on it, if I come out with videos of interviews, if I come out with collage, that will have a greater impact. So again, you have to also understand the media habits of your target audience. Okay, that's very important. So if your target audience is more inclined towards collage, videos, documentaries, which can have a greater impact, use it. Not necessary that you have to make a presentation, you have to write an article, you have to publish a blog, not necessary. Right, so use that medium, which is the more effective medium of communication. So again, one more important thing that comes is about the effectiveness of the medium of communication, right? And if the communicating medium is effective, the reach is far and wide. It has a greater impact. More people come to know about it, and more people are able to contribute towards it, right? So again, what is important? Three important things in every aspect that I'm talking about results is: first is what to present, second is whom to present, and third is how to present. Okay, three important things that I'm talking about, and where to present. Okay, so that is also an important aspect. So if you're able to capitalize on these 3-4 aspects, and if you're able to understand about these 3-4 aspects, which is more about understanding the media habits of your target audience. Okay, so in marketing communication, when we discuss, so what I'm talking about is essentially more about marketing communication. And in marketing communication, when we talk about it's more about understanding the media habits of your target audience, and which media can have a greater impact, have a greater reach to your target audience, and also that can generate more engagement with the target audience. So that becomes an important driving factor. We also have something called as cross-functional stakeholders and their expectations. Okay, so by this I mean that if I'm doing a government project, so recently I'm doing a government project for disabled people. Now, if I know that for education of disabled people, so again, if this is a project which has got implications for industry, which has got implications for society, which has implications for education institutions, they also become my stakeholders, and I'm disseminating information to them. So when I communicate to the government through a report, the findings, the way of communicating of the findings will be different. When I communicate it to the industry, they are more interested in, again, they're more interested, inclined towards the social good, but at the same time, they won't see a business potential into it. When I communicate to the society, the idea is about creating a social impact. When I communicate to education institutions, it's more about inclusivity on how we can get these people in the inclusive environment. Okay, so again, the objective of all my stakeholders is different, and if I'm able to understand the objective of my stakeholders, then I can better communicate it to them. Again, the industry is very forthcoming. A lot of government initiatives that government is taking, the industry is supporting these initiatives through their foundations, through their charity programs. And again, industry and society together also, we can see, we don't see them in isolation, but we can also see them in collaboration on how they can implement such projects. So cross-functional stakeholders also is an important area. So if I know that this is the findings of my research, where all I can communicate. So again, you see the impact. Again, while I may talk about domestic impact, I can also talk about international impact. If your findings have got some international relevance, how and where you can communicate to the international audience, that also makes important difference. Okay, so I'm done with project dissemination. Any questions on this before we move ahead to project sustainability? So I just would like to know from all my stakeholders over here, like how do you communicate about your findings, or how do you communicate about your research, about your projects to different stakeholders? I think 2 participants have raised their hand. They can just be unmuted.
Yeah, you can ask your questions, Dr. Umesh.
Yes, sir. Let me frankly tell you, instead of the other domain research field, shall we take social project, society project in the sense?
Sir, I didn't get your question. Can you just repeat?
See, my domain of research is different.
Okay.
And shall we take the society-oriented that is project regarding the what you call the results and these things? That is a social impact of school students, whatever you have quoted.
Right.
School students or college students, you have quoted.
So,
shall we take up that issue for the?
Okay, so you want to communicate about your results of a project to school and college students, is it?
Okay.
Great. So, what your project is, I'm not very clear or understood properly, but now because you're talking about school and college students, if you have to communicate, again, I said, you have to understand which medium of communication is better. How do I communicate? So if I see the inclination of school and college students, it's more towards the social media. Okay. And again, school and college students are more impacted by infographics. So if you bring in those infographics, if you begin use social media, if you make a collage, or if you even make a small video, I think that's what appeals to this generation of students. So if you communicate in this way, I think the impact will be much better.
Thanks.
Any more questions?
Hello, am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Dr. Satvi. I have a query, sir. Can we undertake social project, that is government funded projects in the area like connecting it to corporate finance, like capital structure planning, how the budget can be assessed government project using the traditional and modern techniques of project, that is like capital budgeting? Can we undertake such kind of project? Can we connect such kind of financial topics for government funded projects?
Yes, absolutely, sir. I think this is a very good point you have mentioned. And again, this is where we talk about cross-functional stakeholders. So while the project may be a government-funded project, the major stakeholder over here is the industry, and you're talking about budgeting and finance. So again, when I will present my results to the government, the mode of presentation, how I present to the government will be different. When I present it to the industry, the mode of presentation and how I present my findings to the industry will be different. Say, for example, when I present it to the government, I will be more elaborately telling about the problems, issues, and how the problem can be addressed. Okay, so and how it can create an impact for the industry, because in case of government, they would be more interested or inclined towards giving a policy recommendation. But when I'm talking about presenting my findings to the industry, it's again, if it's talking about financial budgets, it's again linked to cost, it is again linked to profits, it's again linked to revenues. So my communication to the industry will be again in terms of numbers, in terms of projections, in terms of market trends. This is what it will talk about. So while the project is the same, the findings, the mode of delivering the finding is different, and what findings are delivering to both is different. I hope I've answered. Yes.
Any more questions?
I think Dr. Rekha has again raised a hand.
Yeah.
Two people. Yeah.
Sir, my question is regarding, suppose I published an article for a research paper, and then subsequently I want to share my findings with the industry in form of a report or, a chart, or maybe write an article. Then the question comes of what if I'm repeating, I would be repeating the data. And if I've already published and I have this binding from the editor that I cannot republish, the same information, then what about this, self-plagiarism concept, that comes in? How does one, take care of that? I mean, we shouldn't be ending up repeating the things and then getting into this problem that, we cannot publish because we've already published in a journal.
Okay, ma'am. I think, it's again a very good question that you have mentioned. So when we publish a paper, definitely there is a copyright agreement that we sign, and so it means that I will not be able to again publish that paper again, but definitely lot of academic journals today encourage you that whatever you have published to disseminate to the outside world. So you will find that if you have published a paper in maybe Elsevier, they want that you should propagate it on LinkedIn, you should propagate it on social media, and the findings of your research also you can disseminate. So I'm not publishing my findings all over again. I'm just communicating to the outside world about my findings, maybe through a blog, or maybe through a presentation, or maybe through infographics. That's perfectly okay. So that doesn't carry any copyright, because it's your work, it's not someone else's work. I hope I've answered your question, ma'am. Dr. Rekha.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Right.
Dr. Suresh, did you have a question? Dr. Suresh, can you hear us? I think we can move forward, Dr. Komal.
Right. Thank you, sir. Okay, so coming back to the next aspect of what we have to discuss today is about project sustainability. And I would start with the very definition of project sustainability, which refers to the ability of a project to continue delivering its intended benefits and outcomes over an extended period. Now, if I have to just look at the definition in a simple way, I look at the definition, the communication is not very effective. So what I'll do is I place an infographics over here, and I'll try to explain this in a simple way. Okay, so if I set up an entrepreneurship incubation center with the help of a government funded agency, the whole idea is how do I sustain it over a period of time? Because the government will give me fund for a limited period of time, or if I'm setting up an incubation center with the help of industry, the industry will be giving me limited funding. So how do I sustain this project over a period of time? So generally what happens in such kind of projects, when you set up some development center, when you set up, so this kind of sustainability question arises when you set up maybe a development center, or when you set up a center of excellence. How do you sustain it over a period of time? That becomes a major question, and that effectively brings in the element of sustainability. So going forward, if you have to sustain such kind of projects, or if you talk about project sustainability, the key question over here is to understand your stakeholder interest. Okay, so if I have to set up, again taking the same example, if I have to set up an entrepreneurship development center again, and my stakeholder over here is the government, I would like to understand it from the government that, what is their expectation from entrepreneurship? Are they looking at a specific category of entrepreneurs? Are they looking at general entrepreneurs? Are they looking at women entrepreneurs? What is their interest? Second thing is also the funding is how much. So if the funding is limited, can I get another funding from a venture capitalist? Can I get more funds, or can I self-sustain? That is important. So what is important? So if I'm able to maintain the interest level of the government, if I'm doing well, probably I can get more funding. More so when it comes to corporate funding, they're more looking at how will they benefit in terms of revenues and profits. So if I've opened a corporate center of excellence for an industry, and if it is generating revenue for them, and if it is contributing to profit for them, definitely it has a greater chances of being sustainable. So the stakeholder interest is very important. Again, if I've set up a center of maybe social good, where the purpose is to do benefit for the society, then I would get funds as long as there is an impact assessment. Say, for example, if I hire a if I'm set up an corporate social responsibility center for doing CSR projects with the help of some companies, definitely whatever work I'm doing is being evaluated by companies, and based on that the future funding is given, right? And over a period of time, all the stakeholders would want that I should become self-funded, and not only self-funded but also contribute to their revenue, contribute to their profits, right? That becomes important. So the major goal over in stakeholder engagement is, first of all, how you're making a difference through these projects, and second is can it become self-sustaining, and can it can it give back from where you are taking it? Can it give back to the government? Can it give back to the industry? Can it give back to the society, right? How it is contributing. So this stakeholder engagement is very important to understand. So the first aspect is I need to understand what are my stakeholder expectations and how I can meet those stakeholder expectations. Second aspect is sustainability. So within sustainability, I can have different elements. One is economic sustainability. So how revenue generation will happen. If I'm doing a social project, it is actually a cost center and not a revenue center. But if I do a social project, say creating employment for people, selling products through this employment for people, it is definitely generating certain amount of revenue. And because of that, my sustainability of my center is there. Also look at your budget assessments, look at your financial risk. This is very important. So especially when it comes to budgets and finance, it's also important to do a risk assessment and to come out with risk mitigation strategies, because finally, if I'm running a center, it has to self-sustain. So where will the revenues come from? So I can give examples there have been certain centers that were established with the help of industry, but they are actually not doing well, or they're not been able to contribute, and finally they have to shut down, right? So it's also important that when you talk about sustainability, you talk about where the revenue will come from, how will you sustain with whatever revenues available, is it financial feasible, can you go in for public-private partnership? So a lot of these projects can also be through public-private partnership, where the government gives you some fund, the private gives you for some fund, right? And that's how you are able to create sustainability, right? So this again becomes an important driving factor, that economically or money-wise, how do you sustain? Then we also look at social sustainability. And so while I have a center, I have a project for state sustenance, in the long term, what impact is creating on the society? That is important. So there are a lot of people attached to my project in terms of the community workers, then also in terms of the other stakeholders, that is the government, other stakeholders, that is the educationists. So what social impact I'm making on the society again becomes an important driving factor. So in social sustainability, we look at how do we engage these groups, how do we create a social impact, and social sustainability is also about inclusivity. So all sections of the society, how I can incorporate through my projects, that is also important. Then I also have to ensure that I'm meeting the rules and regulations. So if I'm having certain people working for the project in terms of their salaries, in terms of their wages, in terms of their employment conditions, I'm following fair labor practices. Also that because social projects are mostly done in to create a societal impact, I'm also preserving the cultures and traditions of the people for whom I'm working. And definitely at the end of every maybe quarter, or the end of every 6 months, or the end of every year, I need to do an audit. So if I'm talking about economic sustainability, I'll do an audit. If I'm talking about social sustainability, again here, I'll do an audit. So doing an audit actually tells me that whatever I had planned and whatever I have achieved, is it matching or is it not matching? And if it is not matching, what is the corrective action I need to take? And what is the continual improvement that I need to take in this case? So in that case, that helps me to say better. Then also look at the legal implications, because if you're operating certain projects which requires permission from maybe pollution control board, or which requires permission from different government agencies, make sure that you are having compliance. If it is something to do with maybe testing a drug, or if it's something to do with clinical trials on humans, maybe you have the compliance. You also have permission from the ethical committees. Okay, and if it is involving certain patents, also you have the intellectual property rights, right? So in terms of the projects that you do, also ensure that there is compliance, right? And again, when we do a comprehensive audit, we look at the financial feasibility, we look at the social feasibility, we look at the compliances legally, if all the compliances are met. So again, these are important areas and important aspects that are taken care of when we do projects. Again, one very important thing is monitoring your projects and doing a continuous evaluation. So whenever, so at our end also we had incubation centers, and when we had, when we made the incubation center, we had defined our key performance indicators. We designed our objectives, we designed the vision and mission, right? And again, we made a plan on how to go about it, how to progress, and based on that, we were able to identify issues, challenges, and then we also took feedback from our stakeholders, so for whom we were working this project. So again, the incubation center was related to entrepreneurship, to tell you. And again, we incubated a lot of companies on our campus, because of which so our students who were not interested in placement were more interested in entrepreneurship. They set up their companies. Through the incubation center, we helped them with whatever knowledge we could provide. We helped them to develop their products. We helped them to create markets, and we helped them to create full-fledged companies. Right? We had a lot of issues and challenges also. It was not very easy. But again, whatever elements that we felt, so we took continuous feedback also. And so feedback was not only that the company gets incubated and is done. Over a period of 5 years, the student opened a company on campus. 5 years down the line, how the company is doing, how it benefited, that's also important. So long-term sustainability for us was also not meant to have start entrepreneurship at college level, but also to ensure that 5 years down the line, how the student is performing in terms of entrepreneurship. There were definitely certain failures also, because some people, some students started company on campus, but they were not able to sustain when they entered the outside world. But definitely we took feedback from them, we made connections, we understood what were the challenges, where we were lacking. So when it came to having an incubation center in the college, it was more in a controlled environment. When you go to the actual market, when you go to the actual world, it is more of a volatile environment, right? So all these elements made an impact, right? So for us, entrepreneurship sustainability was not about incubating a company, but how does a student sustain the company after passing out from college? He had opted out from placements purely for the reason because he wanted to start his own firm. And to what extent he has succeeded and to what extent he has been able to carry forward after passing out college over the next 3 to 5 years is what we try to measure. So our impact assessment or our evaluation is, or the outcome of the projects we have done, the sustainability that we talk about is not just about limited to the activities we do in college, but it was much beyond what we achieved, outside college level also, right? So when we talk about monitoring and evaluation, design your key performance indicators, make sure they're measurable. The performance indicators are in terms of what activities you're doing. Is that activity leading to revenue generation? Is that activity making a social impact? Is that activity adding to knowledge? Is that activity developing skills of people, right? So that the key performance indicators actually helps you to develop and grow. We often use this when we talk about sustainability. We often use the Deming cycle. Okay, so the Deming cycle is a very important way to analyze what we do, how do we do it, and how do we check the impact assessment. So first, if we have a development project where we have opened certain centers, we make a plan on what all activities are we doing. So we make an annual plan on what all activities are we doing. With this annual plan, we also make timelines, we also make budgets, and we also make a Gantt chart. So Gantt chart will actually tells us that how these activities will perform. Then we carry out these activities, and we also take feedback from different stakeholders about our activities. Then we check that whatever we had planned through these activities, whether we were able to achieve these activities, to what extent we were able to achieve these activities, to what extent these activities were fruitful, and if there is any correction required. So then we also see what were the deviations, what were the activities, and where we can make improvement. Okay, so when we talk about acting, we make continual improvement. So the whole objective of a Deming cycle is not only to take feedback, but it's also to ensure continual improvement. So over a period of time, if we were incubating 2 companies, and if those 2 companies were generating certain revenue, when they moved outside, now we are incubating almost 6 companies, and all those 6 companies are also doing well, right? So and we have also helped them to factor risk assessment. So I think one major area where we first thought was risk assessment, because when you go in the outside world, what are the risks that will come that were not being covered earlier? But since in our projects, we factor this element of risk assessment, so actually that helps us to gain more stability of our projects. Last but not the least, when you do some projects, it happens that some people leave and go, and or maybe if the project is of a longer duration, maybe 5 to 6 years, and maybe the team is given some other task and a new team has to be formed for the project. One very important element that I see in project is about knowledge transfer and knowledge dissemination. So anything and everything, when you do a project, make sure that you have proper documentation. you identify the critical documents that are important for the project. You mark these documents, and you both in soft copies, hard copies, make duplicates of these documents, keep backups, right? That is very important. Then also do something called a succession planning. So, many times it happens for long drawn projects. I have seen, especially if it is 3 to 5 years, there may be people who leave and go for better opportunities outside, and then someone else has to take over. And the guy who has to take over has no knowledge. So generally what we do is, when we recruit people for projects, we recruit people from different backgrounds. And in that, we also train people to take up important roles in the project. So right from the beginning, we ensure that a succession plan is built. So if someone leaves and goes, the other guy is able to take up smoothly, right? And then this is where the training and education plays a very important role, or mentoring and coaching, plays a very important role. So always ensure that if you have a team, a good team, the good team will work. But definitely it may happen that due to whatever reasons or whatever situation, some people in the team may leave, and new people have to be recruited. And so you do a proper succession planning, right? So that the work of the project or the project is not stalled anywhere, and you have sufficient amount of people who can take over the project, right? So that is an important element to understand. So I think that's all from my side for today, and I think we still have got good 15 minutes, so I would like to take questions. If anyone has got questions, I would be happy to answer, both relating to sustainability and relating to dissemination of information.
Sure. So the forum is open for questions. Thank you, Dr. Komal. I would like to invite anyone who would like to ask questions, and you may unmute yourselves now. We have enabled that option, and feel free to ask a question.
Professor,
yes,
Dr. Komal?
Yes, sir.
This is regarding N vivo. You mentioned during your presentation about the tool,
Right,
N vivo.
Right,
can
sir.
you elaborate about this? What is this? How it can be used effectively?
Okay, so thank you, sir, for your question. N vivo is a software which is used for qualitative data analysis. So in N vivo, if I want to find out, which are the most important keywords, if I want to capture sentiments of people, or if I want to develop some themes, N vivo is a software which can very well be used for qualitative data analysis. Okay, sir, I'm repeating this word. It's a software which is meant for qualitative data analysis, and the free version is available on the internet. It's I think a 15-day trial period or a 1-month trial period. Beyond that, you'll have to pay. So if you have any work which you want to do, you can take the trial version. And so if multiple people take trial version, I think over an extended period of time, you can use the software. So I think it's a very good software, and you should try it out. And it also creates some good amount of infographics.
Thank you. This is similar to, see, I used to carry out the bibliometric analysis.
Right, sir.
It's what is called VOS viewer. It's available for free. So what one can do, you can find relationship between different keywords.
Absolutely.
And co-occurrence of authors. How many co-authors have collaborated with other authors? What is the frequency? Such details can be, generated graphically. This is possibly, this is similar to that. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, sir. So again, I would like to tell you over here, while I have just told you one software, N vivo, you can use any software where you are most comfortable to use.
Okay.
If you finding comfortable to use the software which you're existingly using, it is giving you infographics, it is giving what you already have, I think please continue to use it.
Network analysis is possible with that.
Absolutely, sir. Go ahead with it.
Thank you.
Right, sir.
Any other questions?
Am I able to hear you, sir?
Yes, sir.
Sir, are you getting it, Miss? Sir,
Yes,
Dr. Kavitkar from Amravati.
Right.
Hello, sir. Sir, I am taking up the project called as Resettlement Program a resettlement problem of the ex-servicemen. When they leave the service and when they come to the civil life, they face a lot of problems. So some resettlement problem issue, I'm rather doing a research on it. How to take it to the government so that I can call their attention towards this. How I should disseminate this information.
Great, sir. I think, what you're doing is very good. And to give you a background, my institute caters to defense people and their dependents. So there is something called as Directorate General of Resettlement. So if you get into Directorate General of Resettlement, they run a lot of courses for the ex-service people to give them re-employment and to prepare them for the corporate world. So if you make a proposal and pitch it to Directorate General of Resettlement, I think you're doing the right communication.
No, sir. That they are doing for resettlement of the ex-servicemen, but still the society, they are facing the problem, and I want it to take it to the Raksha Mantri or to the PMO office. So shall I make a research project and dispatch it to the PMO?
Sir, I think, before you dispatch it to the PMO, I would suggest that you first do a thorough research on the issues and problems that they're facing, right? And make a report on it. From that report, you make a sort of a white paper, because in the government, I doubt whether people will read that report. And that white paper, you present it to the Director General of Resettlement rather than going into Raksha Mantri. I would rather, because I can't tell you, but definitely if you make them aware of these issues, I think definitely your voice gets heard.
Okay, that will be a better channel.
Right, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So it is nice, very nice presentations. Thank you so much.
Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, sir. Very nice presentation, sir. This is Dr. Vidya Jirge from Karnataka, sir.
Right, ma'am.
Sir, as a beginner, which type of the softwares we have to learn, sir, for our statistical tools and all? So many softwares were there. So as a beginner, so from where we have to start, sir? Which type of software we can take for as a learning purpose?
Okay. So, ma'am, currently now there are so many softwares which have made our life more easier. So take a software, I won't give you specific names, but take a software which can do all kind of analysis. So nowadays I've seen people using the PLS software. Okay, earlier we used to use SPSS AMOS for doing structural equation modeling, but nowadays people are using PLS. But take a software which can take out bar graphs, pie charts, infographics, tree diagrams, everything. So if you use Tableau software, so as of now, the most better software that I've seen is the Tableau software. So if you learn Tableau, I think most of the applications you'll be able to cover. And it's not very difficult software. It's very easy to use compared to other softwares.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Sir, I have a query. Can we present a research article on conceptual basis and without any analysis, using the information what we have?
So you can present a conceptual article, but what happens is in the research world, so it is good to make a conceptual paper and present it maybe on a research platform or maybe for a research journal. But when you're trying to do it for a project, I think it has to be supported with a lot of data. Okay, the concepts that you have built have to be supported with a lot of secondary data.
Empirical evidences are required. Yes.
Right. So again, if you are able to support your conceptual paper with lot of secondary data from established sources, okay, again, I'm reiterating that point. It's not just about secondary data. So secondary data from established sources like government agencies or maybe private, these consultancies like McKinsey, PwC, or maybe from other research agencies. If it's an authentic and well-established report, having or a credible report, I think definitely you can build a conceptual paper on it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your informative session. It was an enriching session, knowledge session.
Thank you, sir, so much.
We can take maybe one or two more questions more in case there is someone who would like to ask a question. Please feel free to unmute yourselves and you can definitely do that and ask a question. All right, I think there are no more questions coming in. Dr. Komal, with your permission, if it's okay, we can probably close the session over here and wind it up.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we have come to a close. Thank you very much for also, asking these questions. I'm seeing a lot of conversation on the chat box regarding the feedback form. Please note that our host and the convener of the FDP program, Dr. Varsha Agarwal, has been constantly posting the link, and you may find the link on the chat box for the same. So with this, we come to an end. I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for joining us today and making this event a success and a memorable one. I'm sure this has added a lot of value and significance throughout the whole gathering. I would like to express my special and sincere appreciation to Dr. Komal, who has been here with us, and for his tireless effort and also presenting all the work that he has done and sharing his insights and knowledge with us. I'm sure his contributions have enriched our understanding of the topic and also left us inspired with so many questions being answered throughout the entire process. So on behalf of Atlas Skilltech University, our entire leadership and team, heartfelt gratitude to you, Dr. Komal. And we definitely look forward to engaging with you in the near future and for further collaborations as well. With this, thank you very much to one and all. And we look forward to the last session, which is tomorrow, which will be the last day of the 6-day FDP. And we will be finishing the entire 6-day FDP tomorrow. And the last session tomorrow will be done by Dr. Maushami Datta, who is a professor and principal in Nagindas Khandwala College. And she'll be talking on the topic on navigating the landscape of research funding. So that's the topic for tomorrow. Thank you very much and wish you all a very good evening ahead, and hoping to wind up the week with a lot of knowledge and also insights that we've been sharing all together. Thank you. Request the host to end the call.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Kashyap. Thank you, Dr. Agarwal. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Sarika.
Komal. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.